What is up, guys? Coop here, and today we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different for the channel. Today we're going to be doing a book review on World of Warcraft Exploring Azeroth Eastern Kingdoms. Now, I don't typically do book reviews. It's never been really my thing. Hell, you'd be lucky to even find me reading a book. But, however, with World of Warcraft, I've always been really into their lore. And things like, for example, the Chronicle series, where got really into the lore and dropped some big lore bombs on there. I always like reading some of the books out there. Like, for example, I have Wolfheart and a few other books behind me in my little bookshelf over there. But I always thought that the lore in World of Warcraft was really interesting. And a lot of the time when you're questing in the game, you're visiting a lot of the areas in the game, and you just kind of kill your boars and you go on to the next zone. Like in Elwyn Forest, so you don't know that, Elwyn Forest obviously is a forest, and they make a lot of lumber, which ends up making a lot of the catapults for the Alliance and everything that they use in the war effort. That's why Elwyn Forest is a very critical area. But that's some of the lore that this book gets into, which is really fascinating, and one of the reasons I wanted to pick it up, as it gives a lot of the depth and a lot of sort of the background information of like, oh, so this over here in Westfall is where they get most of their food, and it goes to the capital, and then they distribute it outwards, like, little stuff like that. This book is a pretty quick read. It didn't take me long to finish it. I'm a pretty fast reader, and I was reading it mainly at work, so I did about roughly a couple of days, maybe 3 or 4 days. I did a little rereading too, just to kind of get some context of all the zones a little bit clearer. But the book is pretty well written, and it has a lot of really cool knowledge. It'll read like sort of like an information-based pamphlet, and then there'll be like little side notes along the way of the main character, which is an SI-7 agent, kind of filling you in on the gaps on some of the points that he makes in there. And he's also got his other friend there that's a captain as well. So really interesting in the way that they've written it. It's very fun, it's very interactive, it's especially if you're a person that's a lore buff, you'll enjoy this book. It's very much worth the money, and I highly recommend. On top of that, it's actually a pretty good value. It's very much a hardcover, so that was kind of nice to have. On top of it, it has a really cool look. The camera doesn't do it justice. It's very shiny, which I really like, so I can put this down and it stands out. And just overall, pretty nice thickness and everything as well on there. Now, the biggest thing, though, is that artwork. Like, oh my god. There we go. I should really show it out there. Okay, but the artwork in this book is fascinating. A lot of the points that they end up making in there. So, one of my favorite things that you do, too, is if you get an early copy, you get a certificate of authenticity signed by Christie Golden and like a little barcode to make sure people know it's actually legitimate. But it's got like things like, for example, like the interactable stuff I was telling you about, where it shows you like all the places that they do talk about and the overall map. Now, it does get into my first kind of con with the book, is it doesn't get into every single zone. It'll reference zones, like it references Westfall and talks about Westfall and a lot of the plot points going on in there, but it doesn't do a full thing at talking about it. It'll do like a big section on Stormwind, and then it'll mention Westfall and Sentinel Hill. But I don't think that's really too big of a con, but there are some areas like Gilneas that I kind of wish got a little more fleshed out and talked about, rather than kind of just skipping on by. But I do think that they did a really good job on a lot of the things out there. Just some more examples of some of the artwork and some of the early pages that you can get. Again, some notes that they have, little side notes. These aren't like actual like big things. A lot of times they're just like little tidbits and little things out there. Like these are actually books in actual World of Warcraft. So like Beyond the Dark Portal is a book that you can find, that your character can go into like a library and end up finding and everything, and this gives you like page 2 of it. So it's just really cool things like that out there. Another thing I like is that it isn't just about the zones either. They'll talk about, for example, like the Lawbringer armor, and it'll give like a little passage talking about it when it's talking about like the Citadel of the Light, for example. It also gives you some lore that you wouldn't actually know from in-game. So a little, not really too much of a spoiler, but the catacombs. Beneath the catacombs of the Cathedral of Light, there is the honored dead priests and war heroes and paladins among them. There's also a collection of drop points, which are usually in the alcoves themselves and not frequently disturbed. And then you're probably like, oh, drop points. Well, then it gives you like a little tidbit talking about what the drop points are, which basically says, according to Matthew Shaw, a drop point is a place to leave a message by usually using a loose brick, a crack in the wall, or any sort of thing that stands out and is changed from the regular norm. So, really cool stuff with how they ended up doing all of that. I am very impressed with how this book is. It is, I think it has about, what is it? Roughly about 180 pages. It's about 120 pages. 120 pages of context, and a lot of those pages are full of artwork. So like I said, it is a very quick read, but I do think that it is a highly recommended collection to any lore buff out there, and kind of getting a overall look into the perspective of how a lot of those zones work. So anyways, guys, I hope you do enjoy my kind of quick book review of World of Warcraft Exploring Azeroth Eastern Kingdoms. I'm excited. I'm waiting for the next one of Kalimdor, which I reference that, and hopefully we can get one for Northern and a lot of the different islands and everything as well. So maybe Pandaria, but I probably won't be buying that book, really, honestly. But I think it's fascinating. I think it's a good book, and I think you guys should actually really check it out. Anyways, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot of other World of Warcraft content coming in the next couple of weeks, and I will see you guys next time.